Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
The Rich Crush. Why would Felix want to date you? You're just a rich kid. Mason Malt just laughed, shook his head, and playfully poked his tongue out at his best friend Maya. He ran a hand through his longish blonde hair parted to the left, and he couldn't believe that she was still teasing him even after he had come to her for advice. He went along Canterbury High Street, feeling the bumpy cobblestones under his feet, the constant chat from all the different university students going up and down, and the warm sun beating down on him. He had always liked Canterbury High Street. It was filled with so many brilliant red, blue and white shopfronts, each with their own typical style, taste and level of expense. Mason waved at some cute young man in their tight shorts as they went past. One of the cute men winked at him. "I'm not a rich kid. I want everyone to have the same opportunities I did growing up," Mason said, really looking forward to seeing Felix later on. Mason kept going along the high street. There were so many other students. Most of the men were wearing jeans, shorts and white t-shirts that revealed their wonderful bodies. Most of the young women were wearing cute dresses. Maybe he needed to buy a dress later. At least no one looked better than him in his white shorts, shirt with a few top buttons undone, and his designer shoes. The outfit might have cost his parents an arm and a leg, but the attention he got from the boys made it all worth it. Maybe he was a bit of a rich kid. "Hey, I know that, bestie," Maya said. "I remember you lecturing me the first time we met about you want equality, wealth redistribution, and more." Mason grinned. She really did have a good memory. "Thanks," he said. "And I donate to charity shops, soup kitchens, and animal charities online. I would never go into those charity shops, but still." Maya laughed. "Yeah, really helping your case." Maybe everyone did see him as a rich kid. Mason shook away the silly thought. He didn't like people thinking of him as some rich bratty kid who had only gotten into Kent University because he went to private school. His parents had so much money, and they were giving him a free ride. He had gotten into Kent University because he worked hard, he got good grades, and he couldn't actually work because his health was too bad most of the time. A headache corkscrewed across his forehead. Mason went against an uncomfortable warm wall and he hissed in pain. He didn't need this right now. Not another headache. He didn't want to be bedbound for another day. He had already spent the last 4 days in bed, just begging for death. All he wanted to do was ask out Felix. Was that too much to ask? "Do we need to go back?" Maya asked, placing an icy cold hand on his shoulder. Mason wanted to say yes. It was what he should have done. He had had these headaches and chronic illness since childhood, so he knew the signs, the symptoms, and maybe the stress of wanting to ask Felix out was too much. But he wanted the stress to be worth it. He just wanted to see Felix, ask him out, and hopefully go on a date with him. Everyone deserved happiness, right? Mason took a deep breath of the warm air, with hints of freshly fried donuts, juicy burgers, and pancakes from all the different food trucks further up the high street. Maybe him and Felix could go to one later on for their date. Another headache corkscrewed across his forehead, and his vision flashed for a moment. He really needed to get somewhere dark, drink some water, and take some painkillers. "Do you have any meds on you?" Maya asked. Mason shook his head. Normally they weren't needed for a week after one of his spells in bed. How could he ask Felix out when he couldn't look after himself? Felix deserved someone healthy, hot, and capable of taking as much care of him as himself. How was this going to be fair on Felix? Maya placed a gentle hand on his other shoulder, she rubbed them, and she smiled. I know you've been stressed about asking Felix out, but you don't have to do it today if you don't want to. Mason wanted to nod, but a group of young women in short black skirts looked at them, muttered something, and laughed as they walked away. He had a reputation to uphold. He didn't want people to think he was chronically ill, not cool, and he was lame. I'll be fine, Mason said, pushing himself off the wall, and he led Maya further down the high street towards where Felix worked. As another headache ripped across his forehead, he bit his lower lip and just hoped beyond hope he could manage his health for just a few more hours. It was all he needed to ask out someone as kind, wonderful, and caring as Felix. He just didn't want his health to rob him of this chance. His health had stolen enough from him over the years. He didn't want it to take any more from him. Not a single thing more. Have a great day, Felix Turner said, as he waved some customers away. He straightened his tie, and he reorganized some papers the customers had messed up on the counter. Felix couldn't deny the last customers. A woman in her white dress and white high heels, and her husband in his tight business suit, were rather lovely if not a little stuck up. Yet that was just part of the job of working at Ariana's boutique. The sweet aromas of roses, lavender, and cranberries filled his senses as the large shop scent was gently pumped into the store over the air conditioning system. On a day like today, he was grateful for the AC system. He didn't want to bake in his expensive suit. He was only renting it for the job anyway, so he really didn't want to return it all sweaty at the end of the week, so it could be dry cleaned over the weekend, and he could have it back on Monday. Felix stood up perfectly straight behind the wide glass counter filled with rows upon rows of little diamond, emerald, and sapphire rings. He smiled at a few young rich ladies in long sweeping dresses, inspecting some gold necklaces in the far corner of the store. He couldn't deny Ariana was clever in how she laid out the store, and she changed it subtly every few weeks to keep everyone on their toes. And because everyone loved Ariana, even the rich snobs, no one complained about struggling to find the section they wanted. The left hand of the store was covered in stunning glass cabinets filled with sparkling, dazzling, and shockingly expensive necklaces. Felix had no idea how the hell people afforded some of them, because some of the nicest ones went for more than his entire degree cost. He might have been studying business management at Kent University, so he understood the logic behind high-priced items, but some of those price tags were just insane. Or maybe that was just because he had grown up flat broke, and even now he struggled to afford food some weeks. Even the right of the store wasn't much cheaper with its stupidly expensive rings, bracelets, and other odds and ends in the massive glass cabinets. At least Ariana had been clever, and placed white lights in the cabinets to truly make the rings sparkle. The cabinets did look stunning. All Felix wanted to do some nights was just open the cabinets, try on some of the jewelry, and pretend he was a rich kid for once. Instead of the poor kid who needed to rent a suit, struggled to eat, and had to balance everything on a knife's edge. He shook away the thought. He didn't need to think about money right now. A group of young men in their t-shirts, shorts, and trainers folded their arms as they waited for their girlfriends to finish inspecting the middle aisles filled with cheaper rings, necklaces, and some custom pieces. Felix smiled at the young women because he knew some of them. They were sweet, lovely, and kind people from his cohort, and they certainly didn't have much money, but it was nice that Ariana allowed some cheap jewelry in her store. That way everyone could spend their money, get nice things, and pretend to have the rich experience for a few precious seconds. "Hello, handsome," Mason said. Felix recognized the voice instantly, grinned, and his hands turned sweaty as soon as he saw Mason walk towards him. His heart pounded in his chest, his head went light, and his stomach tightened into a knot. This couldn't be happening. What was Mason doing here, of all places? He forced himself to stand up perfectly straight like Ariana had trained him, but his knees felt so weak as he looked at Mason's cute, seductive, lean body that certainly didn't have a gram of fat on it. Mason was probably so toned, hard, and wonderful under that seductively perfect outfit. An outfit Felix so badly wanted to rip off, but a rich kid like Mason wouldn't want to date a person like him. Felix tried to say something, but his throat closed up on him. All he could do was take in Mason's deep, piercing sapphire eyes, movie star smile, and longish blonde hair parted to the left. He was so cute. "Oh, these look stunning," Mason said, looking at the rings at the counter. "Hi, Felix," Maya said, coming up to the counter behind Mason. "You good?" "Yeah, thanks. It's always nice when my favorite people come in," Felix said. As soon as he said the words, he wanted to bite his tongue. If another staff member, a customer, or even Ariana herself heard him say stuff like that, he might be sacked. He needed this job. Ariana wanted all her workers to act professional, use proper English, and never openly admit they had favorite customers. And even then, the only real metric of value was how much a customer spent in the store. Mason had never brought anything from the store before. He normally just came in here to talk to him. Something Felix definitely didn't have a problem with. "Can I help you with anything?" Felix asked. Maya laughed. Her phone buzzed and she gestured she was going outside to take it. "Oh, don't mind her, she just wants to give me alone time with you," Mason said, grinning at him. Felix felt his cheeks so bright red, and a very tall woman with jet black hair, a long sweeping dress and movie star looks entered the store. Ariana was here. As much as Felix didn't want to look away from Mason, he had to. His mouth dropped as he looked at the striking, terrifying, and kind middle-aged woman coming towards him. "Excuse me," Mason asked. "I'm talking to you and you're cute when you look scared, but why are you scared?" "He's scared because I just entered the store," Ariana said. Felix's hands shook a little. He needed this job way too much for Ariana to think he made a mistake with Mason. A few of the other staff members in their expensive suits that they owned outright came onto the shop floor. They smiled and bowed at Ariana. "And you are?" Mason asked. "I was kindly talking to your brilliant store assistant before you came in." Felix forced himself not to smile. Mason was just a clueless rich kid at times. Ariana gave a fake smile. "Darling, I am Ariana Pinnock, the owner of this fine establishment and your friend's boss. I know all about you, Mason Malt, and I know your father too, Daniel Malt." Mason's face went deadly white, his mouth dropped, and for the first time in his life Felix saw Mason scared. And he couldn't help but wonder why. Mason staggered back a little at Ariana's words. How could she possibly know who he was, about his brilliant father, and how did she know Felix was his friend? That should have been impossible. He didn't think she had ever been here when he had come to talk to Felix, more like pester him, when he was at work. He had never given his personal information to anyone at the store, and there was no reason why Felix would tell her. He wouldn't do something like that. Granted, he wouldn't mind being a good customer of the boutique, because the entire place was simply stunning and perfect for him. His parents would probably let him buy lots of jewelry from here without a second thought. The sapphire, emerald, and ruby necklaces on the left of the store looked delightful. The necklace with a rose gold chain, 5 sapphires, and a diamond in the center looked perfect. He really wanted to check out the price of that in the future. Even the rose gold rings, bracelets, and collars looked delightful. He wanted to see if Felix would buy him a collar and lock him up for the night, or longer. "Is that surprising to you?" Ariana asked, grinning. "Is it so surprising that I know you come here to talk to Felix, that you never buy anything, and I know your friend Maya is simply giving you alone time right now?" Mason shook his head. A headache flashed across his forehead. He didn't need this, not now, not ever. He could feel his stress levels rising. All he had wanted to do was ask out a cute guy, and Felix really did look so cute today in his stunning black suit that was slightly shiny. His short brown hair framed his handsome face perfectly, and his roguishly handsome smile revealed his pearly white teeth. He was perfect in more ways than one, and unlike everyone else at the university, Felix didn't treat him differently because he came from money. "No," Mason said. "It isn't surprising. My father is a massive business owner in London, so I suppose it is possible that you have heard of him." Yet I am surprised that you know so much about my comings and goings. If I wasn't into men exclusively, I would have guessed you had a thing for me." Ariana gave another fake laugh and stood up perfectly straight, so she grew another 2 inches. Mason really understood why Felix was scared of her. "I always watch young rich boys when they go after my staff. I will be watching you. I will not let you hurt him, and I will always protect my own," Ariana said. Mason was about to respond, but she waved him silent, marched towards the rest of her staff, and started shaking their hands. Mason opened his mouth, closed it, and shook his head. He had no idea what the hell had just happened. He had never been silenced like that before. Normally, he was the one with total power in any social situation because no one challenged him. How was it even possible that some rich woman would challenge him? "Are you okay?" Felix asked. Mason smiled. That was why he liked Felix. He was always caring, always concerned about others, and he was always a good person. He was sure Felix didn't have a bad bone in his body. "Yes, thank you." And Mason bit his lower lip as the lights in the store got blinding. His skin heated up and his vision went blurry for a few seconds. He needed to go back to bed soon and de-stress. "I'll be okay," Mason said. "I just wanted to say that I like you because you're lovely, kind, and you've never judged me for being rich." Felix's eyes widened. "Of course I wouldn't judge you for being rich, and honestly, you're not your normal rich kid." Mason smiled, and Felix gestured round to all the women and men dressed to the nines in the store. "I see rich kids, men and women every day for 8 hours. I hear them judge me, hate on me, and make me the butt of jokes because I come from a poor family," Felix said. "All our conversations have ever been respectful." Mason grinned. It was nice to have someone else admit that he was nice, and not a jumped-up rich kid all the time. "Would you like to go on a date with me?" Mason asked, really wanting it to be a yes. Felix smiled, looked to the ground, and ran a hand through his perfectly done hair, so it was a little messy. "I'm not rich, and I wouldn't be able to treat you, spoil you, or buy you expensive gifts," Felix said. Mason ran a hand through his blonde hair, made sure it was perfectly parted to the left, and he smiled. "I know a lot of people think I'm a jumped-up rich kid, and sure I say things that make me sound spoiled. Maybe my dad gives me way too much money, but in a relationship, I don't care about that." Mason bit his lower lip a little more. He wasn't opposed to hot guys spoiling him, buying his expensive jewelry, and his boyfriends treating him to expensive weekends away in some alpine resort. Those were all great. Mason looked at the beautiful, cute, poor-as-hell man in front of him, and he just laughed to himself. He actually didn't care about money that much. If he ever needed money, he could simply ask his dad for more, but he wouldn't. Despite what everyone thought, Mason always lived within his weekly allowance, and he donated the rest of it to charity at the end of the week. So he didn't need money, clothes, or expensive gifts. He just needed someone who would care, love, and treat him as a normal person, exactly what Felix had done since the first day they met. So Mason told him all that. "Well," Felix said, leaning over the counter slightly, "I might be able to manage that if you agree to one of my conditions too." Mason felt his heart rate increase, his vision blur, and he really needed to leave right now. "What's that?" Felix gave him a teenage boyish grin. "The rumor around campus is you are very good in bed. Care to prove it?" Mason grinned and leant over the counter a little more himself. "Go on a date with me. I'll show you things you've never even dreamt of, and I'm good company too," Mason said. "I do not doubt that, Mr. Malt," Ariana said from behind him. "Now he has agreed to your date, I would kindly ask you to buy something or leave my establishment." Mason rolled his eyes. She was right. He hadn't said no to his date. They both had each other's phone number, and even better, judging by the sparkling light in his eyes, Felix wanted him just as badly as Mason wanted him. "I'll call you later," Mason said, giving Felix a seductive wink and Ariana a mocking bow. "You can do so much better than that boy," Ariana said. Mason didn't care as he left, because he had a hot date with a beautiful, caring, and respectful guy who didn't care that he was rich and great in the sack. Because from all the months and days and hours of endlessly fun conversations he'd had with Felix, he knew they wouldn't talk about sex and romance. In reality, they would simply end up talking endlessly about their interests, their degrees, and their passions. Everyone might have thought he was only into sex, living the rich life and working his way through the student population, thanks to some carefully curated exaggerations on his part. But there was nothing wrong with talking, hanging out, and connection. Not a single thing. And Mason couldn't wait for his date, and he had a feeling there would be a lot more dates after that, despite his chronic health, that he didn't doubt Felix would support, love, and treasure him through all the ups and downs of what the future would bring. Because that was just the sort of brilliant man Felix was. A few days later, Felix supposed it might have been more romantic to take Mason to a fancy steakhouse with the most exotic wine list he could afford, the juiciest steaks, and the best cheesy garlic bread in Canterbury. That wasn't who they were as a couple, though. Felix loved the idea of them being a couple, as he snuggled up against Mason's wonderfully fit, sexy body in his large living room. There was no one else about. All the lights were off, except for the light of the large smart TV, and none of his housemates were thankfully stirring. Granted, it was 2 a.m. He'd be more concerned if they were stirring than not. Mason played with Felix's hair. Felix lightly moaned in pleasure, and he simply enjoyed having Felix this close to him after so long. He had been nervous about their date because everyone on campus thought Mason was just a rich fuckboy who slept with everything with a pulse, and he didn't do deep emotions. For the past 8 hours, all they had talked about their hobbies, their degrees, and their pasts. They hadn't spoken about sex, kissing, or anything else once because Mason was just fascinating to talk to. Mason moved a little. Felix looked up into his wonderful eyes, and Mason grinned back. All Felix wanted to do was lean up, kiss him, and explore his soft lips with his own. He wanted to feel their fire, their passion, their connection, but he could wait. And it wasn't like their relationship was going anywhere. Not for a single second.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.